My name's Johnny. I'm from the South West Peatland Partnership. I realised coming into a conference where all the nations in the British Isles are represented, and I was introducing myself saying South West Peatland Partnership. A few people said South West of where? So maybe we need to go back to the drawing board on that one. But yeah, South West of England is where we do our work, predominantly across four different areas: Exmoor National Park, Bodmin Moor, West Penwith, and in Cornwall, and Dartmoor National Park. And today I'm just going to be showing you some of the things that we've been doing around Raw. It's been around Wall. It's been really comforting actually to hear that people are just giving things a go, and essentially that's what I'm going to show you today. Is that we literally have just gone, let's just try this, see what happens. We don't have a lot of monitoring to back up what we're trialing, but obviously, and again, listening to the room, it sounds like everyone's struggling with that, and it'd be good to work on that as we go forward. So my role is actually I'm a restoration officer, so I plan the works and survey sites, and then actually get the contractors in and look after them and getting the work done. And to give you some context of how our restoration what our restoration look like, just so then it'll help me explain why we've then used the wall the way we have. I just wanted to stress that we go for full hydrological restoration straight away. So our initial restoration is, no matter how deep the gully is, within reason, we will get the water table right back up to the very tops of the water. I actually use this animation for people who don't know much about peat, but it's always quite fun to bring it out. So we go for full hydrological restoration. This is a typical landscape in Dartmoor. It may echo some of the landscapes that you guys work on as well, but you've got the ridge to the right on here, and then the hill slope going down. The peat's sat on top, obviously, with smaller runnels of the water running through, and then as you go down the hill, the gullies get much bigger and wider. And this is a photo taken from Dartmoor. Dartmoor predominantly, the reason why we're up there is because the peat has been bombed to bits by the historic MOD activity. So that's primarily why you see lots of holes and channels and that sort of thing. So because of that full hydrological restoration that we aim for, we do end up creating quite big pools. Now, these aren't that deep, I should say. Most of the majority of these are probably around about a foot, but some of them do get deeper than that. And just want you to remember that, because that will explain some of the reasons why we've used Raw the way we have later on. On the ground, these are what some of the erosion features that we look like. So some nice big gullies there on the left. We don't have any bare peat really, apart from on the sides, as you can see on the gullies, on the cliff edges. We don't actually have a problem with bare peat. So I've seen today a lot of use of wool for that reason, but yeah, we don't have that problem. So we took wool and took it into a bit of a different direction. And these are some of the restoration techniques that we currently use at the moment. So I think these have been mentioned already, but we use timber blocks, which we cover up, peat blocks obviously, and we're really now pushing for log blocks as well, using quite a lot of them as well, particularly where we've got no peat on the floor of our gullies. So first of all, why do we want to explore wool? If I'm being really honest, we didn't actually go out. We didn't actually think, oh, well, we've got this problem as in our restoration practices. It was actually merely a case of we just wanted to bring the farming community along with us, and it was really nice to hear you, Sinead, talking about that. It's like, yes, no, that is really, really key for us, is to try and bring them with us, because it is controversial on Dartmoor. Some of the work we work on, most of our work takes place on commons, and not everyone who layers in their commons, if those commons, is on board. So we do have to try and put effort in to bring people around to let us do our work. So that's the main reason why we got into it, and then started to explore. So the first thing we did look at the logs, the wool logs, and thanks to Beth for summarising how those are made, because we basically copied the Yorkshire Peatland Partnership in constructing those, but using them in a different context as well. So you can see on the left there, they're being constructed by a couple of local farmers who actually layer their sheep on the areas that we do our work on. Obviously, they get paid to do that. And then where we've used them, because we don't have the bare peat, we thought about using them in a space, in a location where we don't have very good peat. So the pictures that you're seeing on the right of the screen there are within peat cuttings where the peat is absolutely ruined. It's not that deep either. So we thought we'd use the wool to support some of the things like peat blocks and that sort of thing to see if it just adds something because the peat is so weak and degraded that actually the wool might help us to create some blocking to raise the water table and bring back some of that bog vegetation. So you can see there we did two different things. We put the logs just straight into the ground, pinned into the ground with stakes with some peat with very poor peat patch behind, and then others we literally buried and covered just to see how that happened. But similar problems to what Beth has already mentioned, we found that corvids were a problem. They got pecked to death, some of them. And the other thing was as well, we just didn't feel they bedded in with the surrounding substrate so well, maybe due to that, the hydrophobic nature of the wool. So that was a struggle. We did do some very crude monitoring, and basically it just showed that we compared in a similar area. We compared in some cuttings. We compared peat dams to wood dams to wool dams blocks, and the peat was the one that only worked. The wooden and the wool didn't work so well. So wool logs for us at the moment, we're not too sure whether we'd be using those going forward for us personally. But we didn't give up. We thought, well, let's just have a think about how else can we go around using wool, because we've got a lot of it. We did order a lot, and we want to try and get it used. So this is one thing we gave a go. So one of our contractors who worked on the site was quite new to peatland restoration, and I'll be honest, they ended up in one area churning up the ground quite a lot. Creating a lot of runnels, especially after a storm that came in a couple of days later. So I'd just done a first aid course, and of course, those who know first aid, if you get a big gash in your arm or whatever, you're meant to pack it and tighten it up and that sort of thing. I just thought well, why not pack these micro channels that form because of that activity with wool. And that's what we did. Laid in with a couple of logs across to try and make sure that the wall didn't slip off and slide away with any storm surges that come through and that sort of thing. So has it worked? Has it? I think this for me, again, we've got no monitoring to prove anything really, just my own observations and the team's observations. But I think there is something behind this. It definitely has stopped that those micro channels that had formed from getting any bigger, for example. So it keeps the water up and flowing across, spreading the water out basically. So we'll keep an eye on that one. Before I show you how else we've trialed it, I just thought I'd put trialed wool. I just thought I'd show you this image from Google Earth. You can actually see, I think I don't know if it worked. Can you see one of the pools has got lots of white stuff around it? Yeah. So it was just to make a point really that this caused a lot of conversations on Facebook, social media, and actually quite good. It actually was really powerful because it got people talking like, well, why is it there? What's going on? And our comms manager was able to sort of provide that information, by responding to people's posts and that sort of thing. And they liked it. They liked the idea that that the farming community would be engaged with some of the work that we did. So that was a really just a nice small little bonus, really. Anyway, this is some people, but I suppose I wanted to say as well, actually, it is visible, some of the stuff that we've done, and it does, create that impact. So this is another thing we wanted to try. I mentioned earlier on how we do end up creating some big pools, and we all know that that can be difficult sometimes for sphagnums and other bog vegetation to then colonize those pools. So we thought, well, can we give it a helping hand? So that was the idea of lining the outside of this pool with wool, literally taking the fleece, prodding it in, and in some places we have staked it in, stop it floating around and that sort of thing, but literally that's all it was. And then the photo on the far right there is we've taken, so well we put the wool in March. That was taken about 2 weeks ago. The photo on the right, I don't know. I'm not convinced on this one, and whether it's something that we want to look at. Maybe going forward, if we want to try and decrease the size of the pools, we look at things like bringing back those wool logs and putting them around the edge, and that sort of thing. My boss was also on the way up here. We were talking about this talk I was going to give, and she was thinking about maybe this is something that we could look at to trap methane from emitting from the pools. Lots of crazy ideas were coming out, but not so sure about this one. Where we got Well, I suppose we're more excited about the use of wool is using it to complement our other blocking techniques, particularly with the logs. So we've taken some of the felt made by Ruth Lindsay. Um, so yeah, before it's turned into log, we just use the felt that we got for that to try and see if we can just use it as part of our log block to see if it can trap trap any eroding peat sediment, that sort of thing, to try and then raise the water table and that sort of thing. And this one has worked quite well. So usually what we would do, actually, if I just show you very quickly on the next slide, we would normally, when we would create our log blocks, we would build them up and then pack in peat behind to get that seal. But if we can avoid using peat to do that and just put a nice fleece behind it, we hope that actually then that involves less peat movement and does the job for us over time. So this is something we are quite excited about. And actually, so we've got another site coming up that I'm starting this winter where we're actually going to try and do some proper monitoring of this one, looking at basic. Well, it's very basic still, but looking at how we can using the wool, slow the amount of slow the drawdown effect or the loss from during like dry periods and that sort of thing. So yeah, I'll give that a go and see what happens. But yeah, that's the other thing we will trial as well. We will actually put peat behind our log blocks and put this fleece in as well to see if that adds anything to it as well. And then finally, on Exmoor, my colleague Holly, she trialed similar sort of concept really about using the fleece again behind, this time behind a timber block, to see if that just does anything to make sure to keep the water level high behind the block. And this has worked really, really well. And we are doing some monitoring on this. Basically, we've taken a profile of the gully to see how the depth and the sedimentation changes over time compared to ones where we haven't put the wool behind the timber blocks. But yeah, we feel like this is quite promising. And that's basically me in a nutshell, what we're doing.
It's really interesting to see what you've done there with the felted wool. I'm just wondering, how do you feel about nitrates? Like coming from the wool, is that a worry for you?
Yeah, oh yeah, they're very much so, and it's why we just did a couple of pools for that, filling up the that's absolutely a big concern. But we have good relationships with like the Environment Agency and the local Natural England teams. We did those discussions were had. Yeah, so it's something we obviously love to monitor as well. But yeah, sadly our monitoring team had to focus on other priorities at the time when all this was happening. So but yeah, definitely a concern, something we just need to check and monitor.
You didn't see any of that famous green scum anywhere?
Yeah, interesting. No, no, that's the thing. No, but I don't know. I don't know too much. To be honest with you, actually, I don't know how wool behaves. If it's constantly submerged, how long does it take to degrade? And maybe because it do that. Well, from an anecdotal perspective, when you walk across Dartmoor, you see plenty of dead sheep, as you do on some of our moorlands. The last thing that remains is the wool and the bones. So I think maybe because it very slowly decomposes, maybe that nutrient input is not as quick and rapid as we think. But yeah, we need the science, don't we? So.
Okay, thank you.